Good morning. Welcome to the special meeting of the Orange County Board of Supervisors for Monday, March 19, 2018. A couple of reminders. Please use the side entrance to my left when entering and leaving the room. All other doors are alarmed and for emergency exit only. Please set all phones to mute or vibrate at this time and keep it on mute and vibrate for the duration of the meeting. Requests to speak are located on both sides of the meeting room and in the back. Today's agenda, we will now proceed to the agenda for this morning special meeting. Except as otherwise provided by law, no action shall be taken on any item not appearing on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, please read the item into the record.
Item 1 or both items?
No, just the the discussion item.
Under Chairman Doe, provide direction to staff concerning the provision of additional services and housing alternatives to homeless individuals. And we do have 3 speaker requests.
Please call the speakers now.
David Duran, Janine Robbins, and Mike Robbins.
Good morning. What I'd like to state is not really a criticism. It's just a notification. Okay, so having been involved and having worked with to provide services and bring food and to help people that are in motels after being relocated and helping them to better understand what some of the options are, things of that sort, I have witnessed on numerous occasions, I have received on numerous occasions many reports from those in the motels, the homeless that have been put in motels, that various county representatives, especially with HCA, are less than pleasant to deal with. And if they're there to help, they should be much better at it. That's I think that for them to say, well, you know, you're going to have to make up your mind and just I'm making a bad analogy. Excuse me. To be able to hear from an HCA worker that their visit there is really time sensitive, and that they can't spend a whole bunch of time with me, or they can't spend a whole bunch of time today because they've got a lot of people to see. So if you just hurry up with your answers, you know, we can get our work done. So if you're on the receiving end of somebody who comes to you and tries to help, how would that make you feel? Or being interviewed in the doorway, hearing so that the rest of the people in the hallway could hear your private information on whether you have attempted suicide or whatever it might be. So I'm asking you to please re-inform the county that some more professionalism and some courtesy should be given when they're going through their process of evaluation. And to be fair, I've heard a few good stories that people spent, you know, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever. But I have personally timed some of the intakes, and they've been 5 minutes, 8 minutes. 12 minutes seems to be the average. I'm not the professional, so I will admit that. But 5 minutes to find out where a person is going to be moved, whether it's a shelter or otherwise, doesn't seem to be sufficient. Okay. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. More than 200 homeless individuals dead in the streets last year due to your inactions, or should I say lack of actions. The 5 of you are unwilling to house the homeless, even though you accept hundreds of millions of dollars from the state and federal government for the singular purpose of providing permanent supportive housing for the homeless population. A homeless czar, Susan Price, who states in writing that there is plenty of money to house every single homeless person on the streets and has publicly stated that each and every homeless person needs a unique solution. That is the most telling comment. Each and every person needs a unique solution. They don't fit into a box. You can't take a square peg and shove it into the round hole that is Bridges or the courtyard and the armories that will be closing in a few weeks. We have a county that spends over $300 million of taxpayer money to keep the people on the streets rather than provide housing for them, not shelter, housing. A county that was forced to shelter homeless individuals in motels under federal court order while providing lackluster services and assessments. And I'm not going to go into that. David did a fine job. What we have witnessed there in the motels is abominable. If any of you were subjected to the questioning or the situations that these people have been, I don't even know how you would react. And because don't know how I would react, especially in the time of stress and tension that these people are experiencing, knowing that the hammer is over their head, knowing that they have to make a decision or end up back on the streets. We have a county board of supervisors who need to realize that their time of ignorance and inaction is over. You are now evicting people from the motels with basically no service plans. You are attempting to force people into shelters that they cannot live in due to varying degrees of disabilities. Housing is the goal, permanent supportive housing, and you know this. All 5 of you know this. But you're attempting to force people into shelters where they cannot live. And really, I would hope that 4 of you up there would get Supervisor Spitzer under control, because the damage he is doing with his constant media rhetoric, whether it be on print, on TV, and on the radio, is so damaging to this effort that it's beyond. I don't know why he would even think of doing something like what he's doing. So the picture he is painting is so inaccurate. So, thank you.
Last speaker is Mike Robbins.
You know, we are solution-based also. These particular units, they're the small homes. This is the national home sales. These particular units are about $20,000 to $40,000 each. If you don't want to put them in tiny sheds, perhaps we should put them in tiny homes. That's the Atherton. I think it's about $25,000, and there's a bunch more. Hopefully you can see this on your computer. These are modular dorms. The modular dorms were built in 3 months at a cost of, I have the figures in front of me here too. You can do the modular dorms in 3 months, and the cost is 10,000 square feet, 2.5 million per structure, 45 people per unit. I don't think you want to do. I know that you're hesitating on the tiny. The sheds, I think that the community will have some resistance to the sheds, but there are these other alternatives. You know, we've been alternative-based, and we've been trying to present the housing projects to you. We hope we can move forward with this. I also want to mention that if you've been in the Platinum Triangle, that there's the new apartments. It's called the George. Those were built in about 6 months. There's thousands of units there, so certainly we can do something in a very quick period here. If you want the judge to force something, and you want to force something real, and you want to build something real, something that's really going to work, we can go with any of these different options. The modular homes, though, could be a standard that could be utilized throughout the county, the city, the state, and they're inexpensive and quick to build. They already have the plans, and they don't take up much space. It could be a perfect solution. Certainly, we'll present that to you anytime you want. I think I've sent that all to you in emails. I hope you can review it all, because certainly in the finality of us complaining, arguing, or everything else that we might do, solution is the answer, and we have to be solution-based. I hope that you'll look forward to this and perhaps talk about this with the judge instead of some of the other options that have been on the table that are less than adequate, especially for ADA compliance. Thank you very much.
Any more speakers, Madam Clerk?
No, we don't.
Okay, colleagues, I intend to recess to close session, and then we will take up this item again when we reconvene. So at this time, Madam Clerk, please read the closed session item.
Under County Council, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, per and D, per and 1, name of case Orange County Catholic Worker et al. Versus County of Orange et al. And we do have 6 speaker requests.
Please call the speakers now.
First 3 speakers, if you can line up behind the podium, Lisa Mills, Mike Robbins, and David Duran.
Good morning, members of the County Board of Supervisors. My name is Lisa Mills, and I'm a resident of Santa Ana. For the record, I'm also a former Santa Ana City Council member and a former CEO of the OCTA. I attended Judge Carter's meeting on Saturday. It was a very long day, and several items were agreed upon, including 60 new beds at Wise Place in Santa Ana. I think that's a great accomplishment. The county has done a great job in trying to address the issue, and I think Supervisor Doe has made a strong commitment, and we saw that on Saturday once again. From my perspective, there are not enough shelter beds. And this is very hard because if you heard from the previous speakers, everybody thinks you're going to have a solution by tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. We all know it. It takes time to build transitional housing. It takes time to build permanent supportive housing. But we have a crisis coming right now because we don't have enough shelter beds. In the next few weeks, we're going to see that the Courtyard and Bridges locations are going to be at or over capacity. In fact, when I walked in here today, I couldn't believe all the tents that were across the street. The Santa Ana and Fullerton Armories are going to close on April 15th. You're going to have to move 200 people out of the Santa Ana Civic Center area, and you're going to have about 600 people that are going to come off of the motel voucher program. I don't believe you can continue to manage in this type of situation. You need some kind of interim solution. And I think you need to establish a 600-bed emergency triage shelter in some vacant location, whether that be the Huntington Beach site on Gothard, the Irvine site at the 100 acres, or the Laguna Niguel South Justice Center. There needs to be some place for all these folks to go where the county staff can help them and help move them through the process. This will give you time over the next 6 to 12 months, because I think a lot of great ideas are coming, to build the Anita Drive facility, potentially negotiate the Fairview lease, and build other housing. I think the county's 100-acre site at El Toro is the best for several reasons. One, it's available and could be readied in 30 to 60 days. The development plans are mirrored in litigation and won't be ready for 2 to 5 years. It's currently zoned, and you could use it under an interim basis. And you ultimately will develop the site, I get that, but it's going to take time. I think you need to use Supervisor Nelson's plan that he put out in May of 2017. And bold action is needed now before you're back in court in mid-April. I want to thank you for allowing me to address you. I stand ready to help. I'm not up here to make any kind of criticism or anything. Your job is extremely hard. I understand it. I've been an elected official. People don't realize how difficult, having to make some of these tough decisions are. But I have ideas, energy, and experience, and I'm ready to help wherever I can. Thank you.
Mrs. Mills, could you just acknowledge, I have never met you, but hearing some of the things you said, you almost might sound like a plant. So I just wanted to be clear for the room.
No,
I have never spoken to you. I don't know you. Perhaps that's my negligence, but.
I was gone before you became a member of the OCTA. Thank you.
I noticed they mentioned shelters again, and shelters are not ADA compliant, and they don't necessarily work for transition. I will point out again that I just presented something that takes 3 months to build the dorms. Something you're going into, you're dealing with this judge, and when the judge came in, I hate to remind you guys, but I really thought, murder is on the table. If your child had schizophrenia or other mental disorder, was mentally handicapped, had a debilitating disease, was a drug addict, or even stole a bike, or even if he just wouldn't work, and you denied him a toilet, shower, water, food, locked him out the backyard, in all weather conditions and wouldn't give him access to health services, and he happened to die, you'd be brought up on the murder charges. And when I saw the grand jury people there at some of the court workings there, I really thought that they were thinking the Board of Supervisors could be culpable, and I think you should be considering that with your lawyers. One homeless person dies on the streets of OC each day. You have the money to help, the ability to help. And again, I thought when the judge came on this case, I really thought that he was going to present some charges of murder. And I think that the grand jury could still probably bring stuff like that back. I want to warn you on that. I believe they were there, and I don't know if they're going to hold that against you, but certainly if these were your children, I don't understand if it's your children and you deny them these services and they die, and the people on the streets are denied the services and they die. I don't see it. To me, I don't see a difference. And I'll remind you again, the dormitory is going to be built in 3 months, and I'll bet you can't build a shelter in 3 months. So please consider that. And when you're going to a closed session with the lawyers, I think you should remember that the grand jury was there, and you should be looking perhaps to protect yourself in that regard. But there's still people on the streets, and we don't want anything to happen to them. And I hope that you'll remember that also, please, in your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
After David Duran, the last three speakers are Janine Robbins, Peter Katz, and Tony Kargaloff.
In the past, I've been here and I have been critical. I've mentioned people by name, and I've pointed out actions and inactions to not only bring awareness, but to identify the culpability that you have by not doing the people's business. I've also been here to just inform and to help. And that's what I'm here today for. Because, as you've heard from me and previous speakers, there is the issue that is still left unsolved. I never thought I would hear myself say this, but I want to commend Chairman Doe for recognizing and in public, stating that the county has failed. Thank you. Thank you for that recognition. That's what we've been trying to bring to the forefront for over a year. During that time, as was earlier mentioned, the negative aspects, the negative rhetoric that we've heard is not helpful. I'm again here today to offer some help. Housing is a human right, Orange County, as well as Poverty Alleviation Task Force. Many of us have been the boots on the ground trying to help and solve issues that the homeless have had because they can't get adequate support or adequate communication from the county, or to bringing them food and to giving them rides to the doctor's office because the county didn't show up as though they said they would. So that's what we've been doing. Please help us.
Hello again. It's shameful in my mind that it takes multiple lawsuits and a savvy federal judge to force this board to act in providing shelter for the homeless population that has increased substantially under your watch. However, you've accepted the homeless population increase for many years with no actions, and now it's time to change. Housing is the goal, permanent supportive housing, and please remember that. Until you accept this and realize that not all people can live in a shelter situation, on a mat or a cot, in a room with hundreds of others, any inactions will be ineffective. You need to extend the motel stays until you have adequate programs and housing for this population. When you walk into a motel room with somebody who's facing an eviction, you can cut the tension with a knife. It is an awful feeling. And as David said, we have been boots on the ground. We have acted as the liaisons between the homeless population and the county. When they don't have their food vouchers for 2 weeks after they were moved in, we were providing food. We have representatives who are setting up breakfast and lunch and dinners in the lobbies of some of these motels for the residents who were housed there. We have been providing the transportation, whether it be to doctor's appointments, to Social Security office to get proof of income. We have been talking to Illumination Foundation. We have been communicating with CityNet. We have been trying to house the people because the county somehow, the healthcare workers, it's not effective the way that they're doing it. But I want to remind you too, please, that the Kramer Shelter took 18 months from purchase to opening for 100 people, and that was a building that was already constructed. So when you talk about the Anita property, I mean, that's going to take time. As Mike said, the modular housing with permanent services, supportive services, can be erected in 3 months. 3 months, and you can house all these people in a situation where they may be able to thrive and may be able to join what we consider to be the norm in this society. Please, you guys, it's time now to do the right thing. Don't evict these people into shelters. You're setting them up for failure. And I don't really believe that any of you truly want to do that, but it is setting them up for failure. And until you visit these people in their rooms and see the situations and hear their stories, it's very hard to comprehend that really it will be failure. So, thank you.
Good morning, Chairman and Board of Supervisors. My name is Peter Katz. I'm president of the Comlink Board for the City of Santa Ana that oversees all 64 neighborhoods in the City of Santa Ana. And I want to compliment this board for taking on an issue that's a national issue that has been festering for many, many years. And we are the third richest county in the country. We need to stand up and deal with this problem. Yes, it's not a city problem or a county problem. It's a national problem. But we have solved this in the past. We created a national GI Bill at the end of World War II that made homes affordable for Americans. We can do it again. We gave GIs no down payments, no low interest rates, and a mortgage that they could afford. And it was so successful, we can do it again on a national level. We need to take the courage to try to solve this problem. Otherwise, what you're doing is kicking the can down the road. You're forcing these people to go into the neighborhoods, side streets, behind supermarkets and businesses, and so the problem gets ignored once again. This is an election year. This is just an election. Chairman Doe, I want to compliment you. I spent all day Saturday listening to Judge Carter and you taking the bull by the horns. And I heard you got up at 4 o'clock this morning. You were on KFI with the Bill Handel. Todd Spitzer, I followed your reports throughout the years on KNX and KFI on this issue. This is a long-time issue, and it's not easy to solve, but these are human beings that needed to be treated decently. We have a state facility on Harbor Boulevard that is in Costa Mesa that has been vacant for 60 years. It's 100 acres. It has a mental hospital on it. All they do is paint it and cut the grass. I mean, we need to get our state partners together. We need to get everyone on board here, including our residents, because what this is doing is driving down business, driving down property values, and driving down the human spirit. We as property owners feel sorry for all these people. I was homeless twice in my life. I slept a year in that parking lot where those 4 family members were found dead over the weekend in Garden Grove. And there's hundreds of people living in their automobiles and their RVs. It's not just on the streets of this county. And we are the 3rd richest county in this country. And this is an embarrassment. We need to do something here. You know, I mean, let's take the bull by the horns and set a national example. And if we have to float a bond before the voters to finance this, we can do it. We will round it up. We will work precincts. We will sign people up to support a bond measure to solve this problem. But it is doable in this country. We have that extra $10 in our wallet that can support a bond issue. So I encourage you guys not to look the other way and say this is Andrew's problem because he's the 1st district supervisor and the other 4 districts don't want it in their backyard. Thank you.
Last speaker is Tony Kargaloff.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I want to speak on when this started, when Judge Carter worked that compromise with the lawyers. He didn't take into effect any of the issues of the new lawsuit. The first edict by the Board of Supervisors were to just get us moved off the river, Santa Ana riverbed, and worry about the litigation or any paper that you might lay later. That, with the judge's decree, I believe that he just made a decree without the lawsuit issues in hand, just to make sure that the advocates, the keepers of the oath, would either pull together and come up with a comprehensive plan that would address the homeless issue that they had all displaced 1,000 people. It would also give the oath breakers, through action or inaction or words or not their words, to reveal themselves that they really had no intention or plan to handle what we're handling. You have to handle now. So that was definitive. But to me, it was really clear that there was no planning. I've seen the 10-year plan. I've seen Illumination. I've seen the plan that England produced, and not one step after the 28 days came up was addressed in any previous plan. So no one took into effect anything that was previously decided or documented in all the things I was able to research. I think that the county health agency, their supervisors, did not give their employees enough notice. They gave them like a day or two notice, and some of them were proactive and came out to the hotels just to inform people to be ready within less than 24 hours. So not only did they do us a disservice, they gave their own employees a disservice. I think part of your plan going forward you should have a county worker on site at each one of these hotels where they have at least 10 people or more that are going to be extended, so that they can address every question or issue they have. They might not have internet access or right access, but they can be a coordinator at each hotel because you use a voucher for one of them. Secondly, I think you need to temporarily suspend the 28-day notice of all the cities and the hotel things. So that would save the county money, because then every 28 days you got to do something, either shelters or motels. That'd be second. The third thing is, I think you really need to sit down and comprehensively get individuals that have a different, fresh approach. I think we should ask all the advocates, for one, what each of them would feel is the biggest obstacle they've had to face or issue with being homeless, and two, what is the obstacle facing you. Both issues would be in 250 words or less. So that'd be something different and new, because each of them will have the same thing, but they have something different. I used to be the chairman of Micro D's philanthropic committee, and we always worked for the smaller mom and pop shops. Those are the people that have suffered because they are not out there to serve us, because we are divided and conquered, which you were able to accomplish. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more speakers?
No, we don't.
All right, at this time, we will recess to closed session.